Hi, this is Amanda.
And this is Jen.
And you're listening to Just This, a podcast that explores everything around being and becoming a mother or parent.
We're excited to have you join us as we dive into the practical details as well as the unseen energetics on topics that span from preconception to years after birth.
Hello, beautiful podcast listeners. I wanted to send a special intro with this podcast because, as you may have noted, it's been a couple weeks since we had an episode come out. One of our intentions with this podcast is that we kind of went with the flow. It's not going to stress us out, and episodes would be released as they get released. We had all the intention of putting an episode out last week, or just before last week, about birth and pain, a really beautiful conversation that I was in the process of editing. However, at the time, Jen and I were in preparation to head to Burning Man. And if you've ever been, you know it takes a lot of work and resources to get there. And unfortunately, the time to complete that episode and get it out just wasn't there. However, we have a special treat for you today. In all the events that unfolded in the last couple of weeks, we did record a special episode, this one coming to you today. And it has a lot of love and a lot of magic in it because it was recorded as we were leaving Burning Man 2023. Sitting on Playa itself. So without further ado, here you go.
Should we stay where we are?
We are sitting in a car, leaving Burning Man. This is Jen's first burn. Not my first rodeo, but Burning Man turned into Burnicane this year. And while we are only leaving a day and a half late, it really feels like we have been stuck here an extra week. Yeah.
Let's say what our topic is. We wanted to actually podcast this topic during Burning Man.
Yes. With special guests.
Yes.
Teeny, who made it out alive a day before us.
Yeah. But late nonetheless.
Yes. Everyone's late.
So our topic is about traveling.
Leaving your children.
Yes,
leaving your children. Yeah. And the reason we had this topic is because we all were coming to Playa and we were all mothers, and for many of us, I think you and Teeny, it was the longest you guys were going to be away from your kids.
Yep. Longest away.
Yeah.
And not really having access to them.
And not having communication. Longest away without really good communication.
Because before I've left him, but I've FaceTimed him every night, that type of thing. What about you? Do you...
So yeah, I mean, I think this is a good to go into it. This is not my longest time away from this is edging now that we're late. Edging on longest time away from child. Longest time both of us have been away from her, my partner and I, and we normally don't talk to her because she's still very young. So our whole thing is we don't talk to her when we're away from her because that reminds her mommy and daddy aren't there, and then that makes her, makes us more sad and her more sad, we figured.
Got it.
She's getting at that age, I think, where we can shift that. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic because do you remember the first time you left Eli at all?
So
even from being a baby?
Yeah, so that was only short trips, and my ex really didn't agree with leaving him with anyone, so I was actually with him quite a bit. So he really didn't have a first night away from me until he was 6.
6 years old?
Yeah.
Wow, Jen. No wonder you needed to come out to the desert for a fucking week. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's insane.
But when I first left him, I will say there was a part of me, and I think this is something we may feel sometimes as moms, is the guilt of feeling really happy to get away from your child.
Yeah.
I really needed some time apart. And again, I was in a single mom mode, but still having that space and time to just be away and not worry for 24 hours, sleep in.
Yeah. Well, and there's it's a double-edged sword because it feels good, but you can also be so anxious and or not even know what to do with yourself.
Yes.
When was the first time you left him as a baby, for anything, for an hour or two, left
I left him for about 2 hours to get a massage, the belly massage, and then it was like a postpartum, and then they did the yoni steaming after.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Did you go somewhere for that?
I went with this woman. I'll have to get her name, but she was awesome.
Oh,
I was
like
in San Francisco.
You actually went to her place?
Yep. It was like a postpartum package.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Cool.
They gave you a little massage, and then you did the yoni steaming.
How did that feel, though, leaving your baby for the first time? Because I think that's another element that feels weird.
It does. I think, because it was something I went out and pampered myself to, I was, like, looking forward to it. But I was definitely anxious up into the point where I really started getting the massage because I'm like, I really want to enjoy it to the fullest. But the drive over was definitely hard.
Yeah. I think the first time I left my baby was to get a pedicure. And I kind of was watching, maybe a massage is better because I was kind of like watching the clock because all I could think about was breastfeeding when she was going to be hungry again. So it was a little, I don't know, the anxiety is there. It's weird because you've carried this baby the whole time and they're so attached to you, and then even leaving for an hour can feel very scary.
It can.
At first. So that's normal.
Yes.
To feel that way. And then we actually came to Playa when our child was 11 months old. So this is not our first rodeo leaving our child behind to go to Burning Man. But that was hard too, I have to say. We came out here when she was 11 months, and I thought it would be, like you said, a great break to get away. And I was still pumping, all the things, and we ended up leaving early to go back to be with her because we missed her so much. We thought we would really enjoy it, and we did for like 4 or 5 days, and then we were like, we're actually ready to go back and see her, which was fine. There was a lot of realizations that came out of that trip too, which was great.
What realizations did you have about traveling away from your kiddo?
It wasn't about traveling away from the kiddo. It was more coming out here to Burning Man. I had always like I'm gonna be the same person just with a kid, and I think coming out here I finally had that realization of like, I am not the same person, and I don't need to be the same person.
That's beautiful. That's one thing I actually talk about in my childbirth classes, is this identity shift that we have. I think that's a great podcast in the future, so I won't go into that.
Future podcast alert. So just it is difficult, but the other thing is we got more sleep. Everyone comes out here to party. Everyone will be like, what did you guys do last night? And we're like, we slept 12 hours, and only parents understood the first, like, a whole year. That was like the first time we had slept over 8 hours since having a baby. 11 months in.
That's that's legit. That's legit. So I do want to bring up the point that I think and I think this is an intimate thing for many parents and single parents, is that like we both had a breakdown moment being away from our kids. Yeah. And I think that's good to know, because it's legit. Like, as much as I enjoyed myself out here, I also really, like, not being able to get back to them on time was just, like, heart-wretching. You know?
It was very interesting because, things didn't go to plan. This is Burning Man 2023. Where everyone it rained, and we all basically could not, we had to shelter in place for like 3 days.
We couldn't exit the dirt because it became mud.
Yeah, I think that is, I mean, I have to say with my past trips, I had to build up for doing these longer trips. I did another 10-day trip last year. I was away from her 10 days, not without my partner was with her half that time. And then this year I did another one, partner was with her half time. But those, I think it feels more comfortable because the person that's with her is a parent. Right. And so I felt more comfortable. Totally. Versus, you're not with either of your parents, and maybe you feel that way as a single mom. Too.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
And I want to acknowledge too, I know parents that are like you, where they just don't feel comfortable leaving their children, and that's 100%, whatever's going to be best for you is going to be best for you. But there's no shame in saying you miss your kids. Right. No matter how much somebody else will think it's ridiculous. It's 100% okay. And I think every parent can relate to that.
I think it's also great too, because I think it makes you remember how much you miss them. And they appreciate you, and you appreciate them. Because even Teeny was talking, she's like, you're going to go back and be like, oh, I miss you so much. And then, like, the days are going to go on, and it's like you're going to get back into that routine where they fatigue you, like, your energy gets drained because of just being in a relationship with somebody, like your partner and like in the relationship with your kids.
Yeah.
But hopefully we remember to like really just appreciate them, like when we're gone, you know, even though it's hard.
Going back for sure, anytime you're away from your child for an extended period, you're getting refreshed.
Yeah.
And it's almost like being home, away from home for a certain amount of time, and you come back and you realize how much you love your home, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same with your child, for sure.
Yeah. So what are your tips? What's like one thing? I mean, especially since you've been traveling away and going to a place like Burning Man where there is no really a lot of reception and contact, because that was my nervousness and anxiety about coming in the first place, was that I just wouldn't really have contact with him. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I had fairly good reception, so that was kind of nice, but I really also try to honor like my time away from people, and like, because I think part of going into nature is you get to actually disconnect from everything to really recharge, you know, like almost like that space you get for meditation. It's like a longer,
I think building it up. Yeah. So start with a half a day, then do 2 days. And building it up helps because you see, oh, my child is fine. They handle it well.
You handle it well.
You handle it well as a parent. There is a friend I know who was out here actually with their child because they did a little trial run of 3 days of being away, both parents, and the child was 2, and it didn't go as well. So they chose to bring their child with them because they realized being away for more, like, maybe that's edging on how much that child was comfortable with, and then as a parent, they weren't comfortable if the child wasn't comfortable. So building it up, that's, I guess, tip number 1.
Yeah. I like that. And that also gives the child the opportunity to like ease into things instead of kind of like drop them like hot. You know, it's like, and some kids I think might actually do better with that where they just drop into it, and some other kids I'm sure like they need more of that easing in process to kind of feel safer.
Same with parents too. Some parents are easier
That's a good point.
Second tip would be have a good community and people you trust that are with your kid. I think it's easier. This goes back to, it was easier for me when my partner was with her when I was away. It's easier, I think, the closer you are with the people that are with your child.
And I think it's interesting, the thing that I noticed as far as us kind of getting emotional was not really that we couldn't see our kid right away, but more that we felt guilty that we're putting this extra pressure on someone because we couldn't get out. Yeah. And I know it affected you sooner. For me, it happened, my mom texted me that my friend who's watching my son for that time that we were gone, like, was in my t-shirt, you know, and that just like, that broke the whole thing for me. And so it's, I mean, what do you think about that guilt?
Yeah, I guess,
even though they said it's okay.
Yeah, that goes back to point number 2. You had somebody trusted that was with your son, and because of unforeseen circumstances, he had to be passed on to just a friend who, not that's not trusted, it's just not someone you're not as close with, and then therefore it makes that separation feel harder.
Yeah. So how did that work when it happened with your mom? Because you felt bad about your sister.
So the guilty parent thing, this is what's interesting, because both Jen and I commented this morning. Again, we're only a day and a half fucking behind our schedule leaving, but it feels like we are a week, and on the outside it probably everything's fine. It's a holiday. On the inside, we're in panic mode over here. I felt, that guilty parent thing. It's when you say you're going to do something or you feel you're going to be there. Again, even though to everyone else, it might seem totally fine. Oh, we have water delivery. Water boy. Delivery. Do you want to say hi really quick?
Say hi in the podcast. He's our favorite fan.
Anyway, so yes, there's the parent guilt. That's a whole future podcast alert. Future parent guilt. We didn't feel guilty doing anything else we did out here. It's just when we couldn't be back to our child when we said we would be. And I think there is an element of saying, it's that guilt of saying you're going to show up. Yeah. And not showing up for your child, and not just the child, the people around you who are there to support your children.
Absolutely.
And my soda.
Me too. Here.
Cheers.
Cheers to the sparkling water as we sit here for however long we'll be here for.
Yeah, we can make some estimates.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about 3 to 4 hours.
I guess 3.
So, I don't know if this is my first time in Burning Man, but there is a guy doing, what's it called? Juggling.
I did not see the juggler.
Yeah, he's over there. That's how slow it is here. One guy offered us a Pop-Tart.
How do you get all this service? We're right in front of you. Nobody walked up to our cart.
Side conversation. So, going back to
leaving your children. So I think those are the big things we wanted to cover. It's hard. It's okay. It's like Teeny had mentioned something else that resonated. I think this is the other thing too. If you don't find other parent friends to support you in like mending your heart around, taking these steps to leave your children. Or if you're feeling down and low, we had each other, which was so helpful. Absolutely. Because people without kids don't get it. And she mentioned that when we all started breaking down and crying, that unless you have a child, it's really hard to understand that you'll do anything to get back to your child. And I think goes the same whether things go to plan or not. Unless there's somebody else who is as a parent, they have a hard time relating to how hard it can be. And it's okay to admit that and find people to talk to and to hug and to support you in just working through when, you do need a break as a parent. You do need a break. And so
working
through those feelings or just being able to share those feelings. Don't bottle them up inside.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's another strong point there.
I love that. Don't bottle them up inside. And I just want to say before we forget, thank you to all the people that took care of our kids.
I dedicate this podcast everyone in our life who, really stepped up, and thank you.
Yeah, because I really think ultimately on the other side, everything has been great, and they're like, don't worry, be safe. It's never like they're going crazy or anything like that. So I just want to put that out there to everyone that made it happen in the community.
I want to thank everyone in my life for being there when I wasn't.
Yes. Even due to unforeseen circumstances. Yeah. And I want to note too on this that it was very interesting because when we talked about, it's like, it is what it is, right? We're stuck in weather. It's not like we couldn't get back. It's not like we're being irresponsible, but how hard it is still to not feel guilty, even though it's like ultimately like there's just nothing we could do.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit. If you have been delayed from a work flight coming home, would we feel as guilty?
Right.
Because it was an enjoyable vacation. It really wasn't. So there's a lot of layers to that, but ultimately it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So.
And I think, normalizing that all emotions are valid in the experience. Hopefully we can do a little part B with Teeny.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Because she'd be great.
Any more tips for leaving your baby? Because I think that was another thing I wanted to wrap into this, just in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think leaving your baby, I often recommend, like, leaving something that you smell like. So that way, like, they can smell you and that brings comfort for them. So usually what I recommend is, like, a t-shirt you wear at night. So it's, like, really kind of a little sweaty. It's got the, breast milk on it. It's, like, really smelling like you, and to leave that with them so they have some comfort.
Yeah.
I think the small steps are nice. At least, like, a small one out for, like, to the grocery store or something. And then building up as you feel necessary. And maybe that's, grocery store and then your hair done. Or maybe that's grocery store and then, off for a night with a friend or something, right? Yeah. Just whatever your comfort is. So I think with the babies, it's the same. And also I think to note, like, especially with infants, about breastfeeding, like, be aware, like, you definitely, if you breastfeed and you want this person to bottle feed, do shorter ones first until the baby accepts
the bottle
well, and they're not, like, on strike for 6 hours, so.
And on that note, we're both very pro breastfeeding versus formula. However, it's always good to have formula as a backup around, and it's fine to supplement with formula as needed. And I found it was very helpful to have that, even with all my frozen breast milk or whatever, to have formulas, like, just in case. So
absolutely. I love that. Anything else?
I think that's it. We'll come back with a part 2, third perspective with Teeny.
Yeah.
But hopefully this has given you some pointers, or if anything, made you feel less alone in your steps to leaving your children.
Yes. Share some tips below. And if you went to Burning Man 2023.
Yeah, reach out to us. Let us know how it went for you.
Yes.
Hey there, amazing listeners. We just want to say a huge thank you for tuning into our convo on the Just This podcast today. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners, and your continued support means the world to us.
If you enjoyed this episode and found value in it, we would be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it too. Your reviews and shares not only motivate us, but they also help others discover our show.
We're also all about keeping the conversation going and hanging out with our incredible community. Head over to justthis.site, that's justthis.site, where you'll find additional resources, ways to connect with us, and join the conversation, plus some more goodies.
Thank you again for being a part of the Just This community. We'll be back soon. Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and embrace the wonder as you navigate this extraordinary adventure.